Let me start with two real stories. One nursery owner I worked with increased their potential revenue by about 170,000 a year simply by restructuring their rooms properly. And another lost nearly £20,000 in rent because they tried to navigate the Ofsted process alone, failed, and a delay set them back months. The same sector, the same opportunity, completely different outcomes. And that's what most people don't understand about opening a nursery. Opening a nursery can genuinely change your financial future, but it can also quietly drain your savings if you get it wrong. And the scary part is, most people don't realize which path they're on until it's too late. So if you're thinking about opening a nursery, I'm going to show you what actually separates the people who build wealth in this sector from the people who struggle. So if you're planning properly, this video could save you a lot of money. But a quick one before we get into it. If you're serious about opening, not just curious, watch this until the end, because one structural decision at the beginning can change your income for years. And in a minute, I'm going to explain the exact change that allows someone to accommodate 14 more children than they originally thought, because that one adjustment changed their entire business. But before we get into all of that, welcome to the channel. Welcome to the channel Open Nursery, where I support people to open, run and grow their own nurseries. If this is your first time here, as always, make sure you subscribe. But let's jump straight in and look at this properly. And let me say something clearly. The nursery industry isn't the problem. The opportunity is real. Demand is there. Parents need childcare. And if we get the structure right, nurseries can generate strong, recurring monthly income and become a proper asset, not just a job. But here's what decides whether your nursery will become profitable or become stressful. Structure. Now I want to show you something interesting. That £170,000 difference that I mentioned didn't come from marketing. It didn't come from luck. And it didn't come from raising fees. It came from one structural decision inside the building. And when you understand that way of thinking, you start to see nurseries very differently. I'll also explain what happened in a situation where someone tried to do everything alone and why that delay ended up costing them nearly £20,000 in rent before they even opened. Because this isn't about hype, it's about structure. And once you see the mechanics behind it, you'll understand why some nurseries quietly build serious income and others just survive. And I'll also explain why delays can quietly destroy momentum, because I've seen people lose months and thousands simply because they weren't fully prepared for their inspection. And just so you know, this isn't theory, these are real stories. I've spoken to people who've been through it recently. I've been in buildings with clients making these decisions in real time. And I've seen a difference it makes when someone can sense check your plans properly. So let's start with the part people actually want to know. Can you really build wealth from a nursery? The answer is yes, but not by accident. So let's look at the opportunity properly, because I don't want to downplay this. If structured well, a nursery is not just a childcare setting. It's a business with recurring monthly income. It's an asset. It's something that can be systemized. And for many people, it becomes the most stable income stream they've ever built. Demand for childcare is not disappearing. Parents need childcare. Funding will continue. Birth rates will fluctuate, but working families still need support. But let's talk numbers calmly. A well-structured 40-child nursery at strong occupancy can generate well into 6 figures annually. Not turnover. Profit potential after structuring and staffing. And that's just one site. Some people I've worked with don't stop at one. They build systems, they replicate, they grow into multi-site operators. And suddenly you're not just running a nursery, you're running a portfolio. You're building something with resale value, something that pays you monthly, something that provides jobs, something that has community impact but also personal reward. And I'll say something that people don't always say openly. There is nothing wrong with wanting financial security. There is nothing wrong with wanting to earn well. And there's nothing wrong with wanting a business that rewards your effort properly. This business can absolutely change your financial future. But, and this is the part people skip, only if it's structured properly. Because here's what also happens. People get excited. They see a building. They imagine the rooms. They picture children filling the space. They run rough numbers in their head and they think this will work. But nurseries don't succeed on imagination. They succeed on structure. I've seen people sign leases without understanding their capacity properly. I've seen layouts that cap income before they even open. I've seen buildings that look perfect but don't flow operationally. I've seen people underestimate staffing ratios. I've seen financial forecasts built on optimism instead of modelling. I've seen Ofsted preparation left until the last minute, causing delays that quietly drain savings month after month. And the hard truth is this: some people open nurseries and never break beyond average because they never learn how to structure them properly. They're busy, they're working hard, but they're capped. Their layout limits them, their staffing model limits them, their pricing structure limits them, and their confidence limits them. And sometimes it's not even about intelligence. It's about blind spots. You don't know what you don't know. Which brings me to the £170,000 difference. That wasn't luck. That wasn't marketing. That wasn't increasing fees. That was structure. And let me show you what that shift actually looked like. I had a face-to-face meeting with someone who's preparing a building for their nursery. They had already spent a lot of time planning their layout themselves. They even had support from the local early years team. And on paper, their plans looked sensible. They had mapped out the rooms, where the toilets would go, the entrance, the staff areas, all the normal things you would expect when you're getting ready to open. So we walked the building together, and within a short time of looking at the space, it became clear that the layout wasn't being used as efficiently as it could be. Now, this is very common. When people first look at a building, they tend to design it around what feels logical, rather than what works best operationally once the nursery is actually running. So we started thinking about the flow of the building, where children would move, where staff would move, where safeguarding considerations sit, where toilets should be positioned, where bottlenecks might occur, how the rooms interact with each other. And once we reorganised the layout properly, something quite significant happened. We realised the building could accommodate 14 more children than originally planned. 14. Now when you translate that into numbers, depending on fees and funding, that can easily be in the region of £14,000 per month in additional income. One space is worth £1,000 to £2,000 per month, and we found 14 extra spaces. That's over £170,000 per year. From the outside, nothing dramatic changed. It wasn't new marketing. It wasn't increasing prices. It wasn't a bigger building. It was simply structuring the space properly. And what they said really stuck with me. They said they originally thought they had planned the layout quite well, but within a short time of walking through the building together, the entire structure made more sense. Not just financially, but operationally as well. Staff flow improved, safeguarding considerations became clearer, and the space felt calmer and more practical. And most importantly, the long-term sustainability of the nursery changed completely, because when you improve capacity, you're not just increasing revenue, you're strengthening the entire business model. And that's why I say this: structure matters more than people realise. That one structural adjustment paid for support many times over. Now let me show you the other side of this, because sometimes the difference isn't about increasing income. Sometimes it's about avoiding expensive delays. I remember someone who originally decided to go through the process on their own. They contacted me early in the process, where I supported them to get their building, and I advised them on steps to take. They had their building, they were enthusiastic, and they had done some research. And like many people, they felt confident they could work it out along the way. But when the Ofsted registration visit came, things didn't go as planned. They weren't as prepared as they believed, and certain areas that inspectors expect you to understand in depth, like safeguarding, curriculum understanding, leadership responsibilities, and parts of the building that needs to be up to scratch, weren't either explained clearly enough or wasn't shown on the day. So the inspection didn't go through successfully. And when that happens, it doesn't just mean disappointment, it means delay. The nursery couldn't open, but rent was still due, bills were still due, and time was passing. By the time they came back for support, the delay had already cost them over £20,000 in rent alone. And the stress of the situation was enormous. Not because they weren't capable, but because they were trying to figure out everything in isolation. And once we worked through the preparation properly, the knowledge, the expectation, the way inspectors asked questions, things changed. But the important lesson wasn't the inspection itself, it was the cost of delay. Because in this business, time matters. Every month a nursery isn't open is revenue that can't be recovered. And the person involved said something quite honest afterwards. They realised that the cost of trying to do everything alone had been greater than the cost of getting structured guidance earlier. Which is why I often say, it's not just about opening a nursery, it's about opening it efficiently, confidently, and without unnecessary setbacks. So at this point, you might be thinking, okay, those are 2 examples, and that's fair. But the reality is, I've had the privilege of supporting people open nurseries all across the UK. Some started with childcare experience. Some came from completely different industries. Some were opening their very first setting, and others were expanding into their second or third. And what's interesting is that the same patterns come up again and again. People underestimate the building layout. They underestimate the inspection process. They underestimate how many small decisions affect the long-term success of the business. But when those decisions are structured properly, things change quickly. Over the years, I've seen settings open successfully, pass the registration visits, grow their occupancy, and build businesses they're genuinely proud of. And it's always encouraging to hear their feedback afterwards. One person said that they wouldn't have passed their Ofsted registration visit first time without the preparation we worked through together. Another said that after just one consultation, they felt confident moving forward with a building they had previously been unsure about. And someone else described support as worth every penny because of how clearly everything was explained. Those moments matter to me because this isn't about theory. These are real settings, real people, real businesses being built. And when you start seeing the same outcomes repeatedly, you realize something important. Success in this sector isn't random. It's structured. And this brings us to something I think about a lot: the difference between trying to build a nursery alone and building it with structure. When people try to do everything alone, the process often looks like this. They're searching online for answers, they're piecing together bits of information from different places, they're second guessing decisions, they're hoping the building works, they're hoping their policies are right, and they're hoping the inspection goes well. And sometimes it does, but very often the journey becomes slower, more stressful, and more expensive than it needs to be, because every mistake takes time to correct. Now compare that with someone who structures the process from the beginning. They model the finances properly. They sense check the building before signing anything. They optimize the layout. They prepare properly for Ofsted. They understand what inspectors actually expect, and they move forward with confidence rather than uncertainty. The difference between those 2 approaches isn't intelligence, it's access. Access to experience, access to structure, access to someone who's already seen the problems before they happen. And when you have that access, something interesting happens. The timeline compresses, mistakes reduce, confidence increases, because in business, and especially in childcare, access compresses time. So at this point, the natural question is this: what actually makes a nursery financially successful? Because it isn't just opening the doors and hoping for the best. There are a few key things that consistently make the biggest difference. The first is occupancy. A nursery with a strong occupancy becomes predictable financially. Staff wages, rent, and operational costs are easier to manage because income is stable. That stability is what allows a setting to grow rather than constantly firefight. The second is capacity optimization. This is where many people leave money on the table without even realizing it. How rooms are arranged, how ratios are managed, and how the building flows, all of that determines how many children you can safely and realistically accommodate. As we saw earlier, a change in structure can mean a difference between average income and an additional £14,000 per month. The third is staffing structure. Your team is your biggest cost, but also your biggest asset. A well-structured staffing model keeps the nursery compliant while remaining financially sustainable. Then there's funding understanding. Knowing how government funding works, how it interacts with private fees, and how to structure sessions properly can significantly affect revenue. Another factor is retention. When families trust your nursery and children stay long term, the business becomes far more stable. Constantly replacing children creates unnecessary pressure. And finally, systems. The nurseries that become truly successful are rarely chaotic. They have clear systems for operations, staffing, safeguarding, communication, and growth. And when all of those pieces work together, the nursery stops feeling like a constant struggle. It starts behaving like a well-run business. Now, I want you to picture something for a moment. Imagine 2 years from now. Option 1, you've opened your nursery. The rooms are full, your team is stable, parents trust the setting, the business generates consistent income every month. You're not constantly worrying about survival. You're thinking about growth, maybe even a second site. Now picture the other scenario. You're still dealing with delays, still unsure whether the building was the right choice, still second guessing the decisions you made at the beginning, still feeling like things could have been structured better. The difference between those two futures is rarely effort. Most people work hard. The difference is structure, because serious operators don't leave six-figure decisions to chance. So if you're thinking about open nursery and you want to build it properly, not just hope it works, there are a few ways I can support you. Some people start with a course which walks you through the entire process step by step. Others prefer the mentorship program where they can run decisions past me, sense check buildings, prepare for inspections, and structure the business with guidance along the way. Whichever route people take, the goal is the same: clarity, structure, and confidence. So if you want to explore that further, you'll find details below. And just to be transparent, I only work closely with a limited number of settings at one time because proper support takes time. But whether you work with me directly or not, the most important thing I want you to take away from this video is this: don't guess it, structure it. And if you found this video useful, consider subscribing, because this channel is all about helping people to open and run nurseries properly. So I finally want to thank you for watching, wish you all the best, and hope to hear from you soon. God bless.